chapter in Jewish history called Pilegesh Begivah, the concubine in Givah. Takes place in Shoftim. It takes place in Nach, when the Jewish people had a civil war and many Jews were killed. And the repercussions and what that has to do with us and what that has to do with Purim. All in today's Gemara. Okay, so we will last thing we had yesterday in the Gemara was David had a son named Amnon who acted unbecomingly towards David, and the Gemara thought perhaps we should not when we read this portion out loud, it should not be translated because it's not honorable for David. And the Gemara answers, not to worry, it is okay, it is honorable for David. It wasn't him who did anything wrong, and you could translate it out loud as well. Continues the Gemara. And it's also an atonement for those who sinned. Gemara continues, Maisa Pilegesh Begivah Nikra Umetargim. The incident of the concubine in Givah is read and translated. The Gemara asks, Pshita, obviously, why not? Why should it not be translated? Is there a part of Torah you shouldn't teach? The Gemara says, Mao the Tema, I would have thought to say, Lechosh l'kvoide de Binyamin. I should be concerned for the honor of the tribe of Binyamin, of Benjamin. Kamash Malan, the Torah teaches us that this section is read and translated. So what is the story of Pilegesh Begivah? The concubine in Givah. So we'll pull up our handy Nach right over here. Pilegesh Begivah. It's the last two chapters in Sefer Shoftim. Shoftim is the judges after Yeshua and before Melachim, after Yeshua died, before we had our first king Shaul and David. So we had a period of the Shoftim, of the judges, leaders of the Jewish people, which did not have a real control of the entire Jewish nation. And the Jewish people went through cycle after cycle of the same thing, which was life was good, we got comfortable, we started sinning, enemies came and attacked us, the Jews cried to Hashem to save them, they did teshuvah, Hashem sent them a leader, a judge from different shvatim, from almost every single tribe over the years, and they came and they helped and they saved the Jewish people. And then they were thankful to Hashem, they acted good for a while, and then they reverted back to what they were. And this happened over and over and over. And two very big tragedies happened to the Jewish people during this time period. It's a time period from destruction, from when Yeshua died, until the destruction of the Mishkan in Shiloh. So during that time period, about, I think, 350 years, approximately. A bit less, about 300 years, that entire time. And two major tragedies happened. One is called Pesel Micha. Pesel Micha is the idol that Micha set up. Micha was a child who was in Egypt, and he went and he saved, he was one of the children which was put into the bricks that the Egyptians were commanded the Jews to build, and to make bricks in a certain day, to have a deadline, and they had a goal that they had to meet, and if it didn't meet it, they would take Jewish children and put them into the bricks. He was one of the children who was in these bricks, and Moshe felt so bad and rescued him, and he cried to Hashem, how could he do this to the Jewish people? And Hashem says, these are the children which are dying, are the children who I know, only Hashem could judge them, that it would be better for them to die now and have the world to come as opposed to what they do. But Moshe Rabbeinu saved that child. That child was Micha. He's the one who made the golden calf. It says Aaron melted the gold, and Micha took a piece of parchment or a piece of metal, or a piece of pottery, different opinions, which Moshe Rabbeinu threw into the Nile River. which says Alei Shor, ox, rise up, which is Yosef, was called a Shor, an ox. It says rise up, to rise from the bottom of the Nile River where the Egyptians buried his coffin. And he took that same shard of pottery, or that same piece of metal, he threw it into the fire which Aaron melted the gold, and right away, says Alei Shor, ox go up, and a golden calf came, and the big tragedy of the golden calf happened. Later on, him, his descendants, they made a idol in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, after the Jewish people lived there, and many Jews bowed to that idol, and that was one big tragedy that happened. There was no central authority, no king, no one to be in charge, to tell them to destroy the idol, to punish the wrongdoers. And as a result, right after that, this other terrible story happened called Pesel Micha. Not Pesel, the Pilegesh Begivah, the concubine in Givah. Pilegesh Begivah, there was a man, it's all on the screen, we can read it in the last 2 chapters of Shoftim. A man, he's called Levi, the Levite, and he took a wife, a Pilegesh, who was married, and he had a Pilegesh, a concubine, which was common back then, from Beis Lachem, from the tribe of Yehuda. And he did not treat her well, and she ran away, she ran back to her parents' house. And he felt bad, and he ran after her, and to mollify her, to appease her, he brought many presents, and he spoke nicely to her in her father's house, and they enjoyed him so much, and said, come, they spoke so long, come stay overnight, don't travel at night. And that's what happened. The next day, the same thing happened, it's time to go, stay a little. His, his father-in-law told him stay a little longer, and ended up staying a second night, and they ended up staying a third night, and he says, okay, time to go back home. And they make a meal the next day, and his father-in-law says, it's getting late. Let's maybe stay another night. And he says, nope, we got to go. And they started traveling right then that night, and they came, and they passed by, and it was getting dark. They had to stay somewhere overnight. And they came to a place called Yevus, which is actually Jerusalem of today, called Yevus. And over there, no Jews lived there at that time, only Yevusim, one of the 7 nations. And they said, let's stay over there. There were kind people there. Said, come stay. And he said, nope, we're not staying in a non-Jewish place, only staying in a Jewish place. And they went a little further on, and Yerushalayim is in the portion of Binyamin and Yehuda. So, it's part in Binyamin, part in Yehuda. And they came to a Jewish town called Givah, and it was in the portion of Binyamin. Benjamin, they came to Givah, and they met an old man who was very kind, and he told them, come stay by me tonight. And they agreed. And they went to his house, and he gave them to eat, and they drink, and then they went to this person's house. Previously, when they walked into the city, nobody welcomed them. It was a city almost like Sodom, as evil as Sodom. There's nobody who welcomed them into the city. The old man finally welcomed them into the house, and he fed them, he fed their animals, but similar to what happened in Sodom, happened over here in Givah. All the people in the city surrounded the house where these guests were staying, and these were people which were evildoers, evil people, and they said, send the man out, and we could do to him what people in Sodom used to do to the men, and what's becoming normalized and even grandized in today's mass media, right? So send them out, and we want to do to him. And the man went out to them, and he says, these are my guests. Don't touch them. Don't do such a terrible thing. Similar to what Lot told them, told the people surrounding the house. And he says, take it easy. Don't do anything. I'll give you my own daughters. Similar to what Lot told the people. Do whatever you want to them, and don't do anything to my guests. And they said, nope. We don't listen. And unlike by Lot, where you had the malachim, the angels, to save them, here you had no malachim, no angels to save them. And they took the pilegesh. They didn't take the man, but they took the pilegesh concubine. They took her outside, and they abused her in the entire night, all the way till the morning, till the sun came up, and then they all left her there on the street. Comes up in the morning, the man from called Halevi opens up the door of his house, and he sees laying there is his pilegesh, the one is his wife that he just his concubine that he just picked up from his from her father's house, and she was laying on the doorpost, her hands on the door, and he tells, "Wake up, get up, let's go." No answer. Says, "Hurry up, now let's go." Ended up being that she died, whether it was from the cold, whether it was from the exposure, from the stress, or anything else that happened. She was dead on the doorpost of the house. So the man, what he did is, he took his wife's body, he cut it up into 12 pieces. It's going to get a little graphic. He sent it all around the land of Eretz Yisrael to all the 12 Shvatim, 12 tribes, including Menashe and Ephraim. He says, look what was done in Givah, in the tribe of Binyamin, the way they have treated us, and such a thing has never happened. So the entire tribe so all the Jewish people gathered many soldiers together, and then they went to Binyamin, and it says, we're giving you an ultimatum. Give us all the perpetrators of the crime, we'll judge them with a Sanhedrin, or your whole entire Sheva will suffer. And the people of Binyamin do not agree. And it says, we'll deal with our own criminals. Some, other people say, yeah, we'll deal with our own criminals. Some people, it sounds familiar. And they said, nope, this is not the free-for-all over here. Again, there's no central Jewish authority. It's not a free-for-all. And they gathered 400,000 Jewish men from all the tribes, and they marched on Binyamin. And the story is very sad. They made a war with Binyamin, and with the tribe of Binyamin, and they lost. The tribe of Binyamin won the first time. They won a second time. Right? I think Hashem was doing it to be the tribe of Binyamin will have a chance to do teshuvah. A third time it happened. And this time the Shalom Aleichem. The third time it happened, this time all the Shvatim, they won. And just you can read over here in the end, it says just how many people were killed. Tremendous amount of Jews were killed. And all the tribes, all the 12 tribes who were fighting against Binyamin were very, very angry, very upset. And they went, after they won the war, they went to Givah, and they annihilated the city. And then they went from town to town, an entire Shevet of Binyamin, and they killed person to person in the city. From every town, every village. And there were only altogether 500 survivors, men from the entire tribe of Binyamin. 500. From the entire tribe, only 500 people were left. And they managed to hide. And then the Jewish people, the rest of the tribes, calmed down. And then they hit reality. What have we done? We almost annihilated an entire shevet of the Jewish people. Yeah. This is sort of like World War I. Yeah. One person was killed, and that started an entire world war. All the pieces, it was a fuse box waiting for a spark to ignite it. And that's what happened then also among the Jewish people. We'll discuss later on what exactly the story of Piruchni is. And our label is here. So Rabbi Ginsburg, Rabbi Ginsburg from Od Yosef Chai. Rabbi Ginsburg, he has a Talmudist student who wrote a sefer, a book. His name is Yitzchok Shapiro. He's a rabbi of the city of Yitzhar, and he's a Rosh Yeshiva in Yeshivas Od Yosef Chai. He's a Talmud of Rabbi Ginsburg, and he wrote a very long sefer, already a very, very long book, which is called Shmoy Shel Mashiach. the spirit of Mashiach. And he has about 60, 70 pages in there explaining this, trying to explain at least the story of Pilegesh Begivah. So I'm sure there's many great explanations and deeper meanings to the story of Pilegesh Begivah. But this is a story, so you could say it's a very, unhappy story. In the beginning, how the tribe of Binyamin was acting, Jewish people acting in such a way. Our enemies in Gaza act in such ways. Jewish people act in such a way. To our own, etc. And afterwards, the reaction from the Jewish people is also very sad. But at any rate, justice was done at the end of the day. So you might think to say, Binyamin, you should be worried about the honor of the tribe of Binyamin, of how they act in such a way, and you shouldn't do it. And now later on, the tribe of Binyamin is repopulated. Hashem gave them the blessing. Kamashlan comes to teach you that you do read it, and it's not a problem. It comes to teach you that you do read the story of Pilegesh Begivah, and you do translate in order, for the same reason, it should be a kapara. It should be a atonement for the tribe of Binyamin. You might think to yourself to say that Binyamin is an exception to the rule. Binyamin is just one tribe. If we only say Binyamin, you would think to say that David is an individual. What about a tribe, a complete tribe? David didn't sin. It has to teach us also Binyamin. So that is a story of Pilegesh Begivah, the concubine in Givah. It is a very, you could say, sad story.
They were asking for the man. How did he end up with the Pilegesh?
Because it says that the man of the house sent out his daughter and sent out the Pilegesh. They didn't touch his daughter, but they violated the Pilegesh. I guess.
I thought they said they didn't want the daughter. They didn't want only the man.
I guess it sort of satiated satiated their desire. They wanted the man, but it ended up not happening.
And unlike in Sodom, actually, they weren't satiated at all.
Unlike in Sodom, there was no angels to save them.
Yeah.
And the city was destroyed at the end, but not by angels, not by Hashem, but by the tribe of Binyamin. So this is actually very connected to Purim. Which tribe did Mordechai come from? Mordechai and Esther? Binyamin. Who was the only one from Yaakov's family who did not bow down to Esav? Binyamin.
Because Binyamin wasn't born
yet. Binyamin wasn't born yet, and also his mother Rachel, who was in the box, right? Who was hiding.
Actually, Dinah was in the box, right?
Rachel. Yeah. Sorry, Dinah. Yeah, Dinah.
Yeah.
Right, correct, Dinah. Right. So Binyamin did not bow down, and as a result, Binyamin, his descendants who did not bow down to Esav, were Mordechai who did not bow down to Esav's descendant, Amalek's descendant, which is Haman. Right, that's what we learned previously in the Gemara. Esav, he was the one who fulfilled Kibbut of Aim in the best possible way, honoring his mother and father. Esther, her father died when her mother was pregnant, and her mother died when she was born. She never had the opportunity to honor her mother and father. So therefore, there was no possibility to say that Esav has a merit over Esther, that he honored his parents, because Esther never had the opportunity to honor her parents. So Mordechai is a descendant from the story of Pilegesh Begivah. Let's look over here at the Parshas Vayechi, the blessing of Yaakov, and we'll do a beautiful sikh of the Rebbe on this thing. Binyamin's Ev Yitraf, the blessing to Binyamin. Yaakov blesses all of his children, and the youngest child, Binyamin, he calls him a wolf. Binyamin Zev is a very common name today. Yitraf, who takes prey. Not P-R-A-Y, P-R-E-Y. In the morning, he will devour plunder. In the evening, he will divide the spoil. And then it says, all the sons of Yaakov received all the blessings. What are these three brachas, these three blessings? The Binyamin is a wolf. Here's a picture in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel. You can see that's an area of Eretz Yisrael called Binyamin. And you see, there's a wolf. If you go to the next room, you'll see stained glass windows with all the tribes, and Binyamin is a wolf. Right? Binyamin Ze'ev. Why is Binyamin called a wolf? So for three different things over here, each three different, there's altogether 9 words in this blessing of Binyamin. Every group of 3 words is another different allusion, another different thing that happened in Binyamin's history, which Yaakov gave a specific bracha, a specific blessing for. The first one is Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf. Ze'ev is a wolf. A wolf grabs. And it says that the Jewish people will be chatfanin, will be people who grab. The people of Binyamin will be grabbers. Because v'chataftem lechem ish ishtoi b'pi legesh b'Givah. After the story of Pilegesh, the concubine in Givah, who was killed by the people of Binyamin, and the Jewish people made a vow that we will not allow any of our daughters to marry anyone in Sheva Binyamin, in the tribe of Binyamin. But now, you only have 500 men left in Binyamin. No women, no children, and the only survivors of the entire tribe are
500 men.
500 men. How will they continue? How will we continue this Sheva, this tribe? If we all made a vow, and a vow which was made by the whole nation, you cannot ever abolish. What could they do? So they came up with a loophole. The loophole was, they said, we will not give any of our daughters to Sheva Binyamin, to the tribe of Binyamin, but they could grab our daughters. So in Shiloh, later on it says Yerushalayim, they continue the tradition, and we learned this Mesechta Tainis, that there was big celebrations when they came for Yom Kippur to the Shiloh, to the Mishkan, and the girls of Yerushalayim would go out and they would dance in the fields, in the vineyards, on Yom Kippur, not Matzi Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur. And the men of Binyamin would choose a girl and say, they said, don't look at the beauty, rather look at their family, rather at their good deeds, don't look at their wealth, because a woman who fears Hashem is a true wealth. And this continued for a long time until the times of Asniel ben Kenaz. Heard of him?
Yes.
Asniel ben Kenaz. He was a nephew of Kollel ben Yefuneh.
Yeah.
He was a leader of the Jewish people. He came from Shevet Yehuda. And during his time, then on the 15th of Av, they abolished this decree. They said that now the tribe of Binyamin can marry other tribes as well.
How many years did it go where they couldn't marry?
So it's a good question. How many years was it? Because there's different understandings, different opinions, when did the story of Pilegesh Givah take place? Because if you're looking at Shoftim, it's the last 2 chapters of Shoftim, and you go to chapter 20, where the whole entire story takes place, and the very end of Shoftim, of all the judges, it says, here's what what the sons of Binyamin did. The Jewish people eventually incorporated them back, but they made a vow: we will never give our daughters to the Binyamin. Okay, let's X out of this. Continue. That continues. And it says, Vayam Mehem, in those days, Ein Melech b'Yisrael, there's no king among the Jewish people. Ish hayasher be'einav yasa. Everyone did whatever they wanted to, as they pleased. Everyone did whatever they wanted. That's the very end of Shoftim. Right afterwards is Shmuel.
Yeah. And then
right? Which is the birth of Shmuel, the last 52 years of the Shoftim. And not even 52 years, the last 48 years of the Shoftim, of the judges. So you could say this happened at the very end. But Asniel ben Kenaz was earlier. He was a shofet for about 20 years, a judge for about 20 years. And some say it happened earlier, and the point of putting at the very end of the whole entire book of Shoftim is in order to show you what happens when you have anarchy. Everyone does whatever they want. People aren't scared of the police, of the king. There's no one to discipline them. Children grow up without a father in the house. Father who could discipline them. They grow up to be and ending up like these people in Givah, like the tribe of Binyamin back then. So this is what happens. So I say, and we say as a result of what right before this, it talks about Pesel Micha, the idol of Micha. Now Micha made his idol in Eretz Yisrael, in the land of Israel, I think right after Yeshua passed away, which took place much earlier, but it's also at the end of Shoftim. So they say these are, since there was nobody calling the shots, no shofet in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, the Micha happened, the idol of Micha happened, and then because of that, the story with Pilagish Givah, concubine and Givah happened as a punishment for that. Hashem, back then in the times of the Shoftim, there was direct reward and punishment. You misbehaved, you got hit right away. It wasn't like in times of Gullus when things are different.
Micha, he was so pleased actually when he managed to find the Levi to be his priest.
So how long did it happen? Was it about 200 years? Was it 300 years? Or was it 50 years? I don't know.
Any tshuva? Did it say they do any type of tshuva?
So the nation, the people of Binyamin, yeah, the tshuva. Oh, excellent question. Did the people of Binyamin do teshuva? So, yes.
Well, I mean, I was just saying actually that Micha chose as his priest actually for his idol.
The grandson of, yes, grandson Moshe, correct.
Yes.
We'll go through that another time, Yirtzeh Hashem. That's another amazing story of teshuva. How a person could do teshuva because people act nice to them. If you're nice to somebody, that's the best way of getting someone to do teshuva. More than explaining to them how great the Torah is, and more than guilt tripping. How could he do such a thing if you come from such a great family? Being nice to them and by trusting them, and David HaMelech entrusted him with his treasures, and he did teshuva. Shlomo HaMelech demoted him, and he went back to being an idol for Pesel Micha. Yeah. And it says there was no tzaddik like him among the Jewish people. He was the son of Gershon. What was his name? Yakim ben Gershon ben Moshe. Yeah. So in the year 1944, Tafshin Mem Daled. That year was that year was a year just like this year actually, where there was a maximum amount of days that you could have in a year, a leap year, plus a full Cheshvan and Kislev. And I'm not sure if it was exact. This year was a Asar B'Teves on a Friday.
No.
Was it Herbert Davis on Friday this year? I don't remember. I think for some reason I think it was. Let me just check. I think it might even be the same exact way as this year. Okay, I have it on my phone. Let me just check right now.
Okay, so
Sorry, but Teves was on a Friday. Yes, so exactly like this year. The year Tashrim Amdal in 1944. 1984. What's 1984? Oh yeah, you know what that means.
Oh, you should. George Orwell.
You could ask Mr. Reb George, yeah?
Yeah.
So the year 1984, Asar B'Teves is a fast in the winter. It's on a Friday. So it's on one of the shortest Fridays of the year. I mean, one of the earliest Shabbosim of the year. For the fast, it comes out pretty good because you fast less. The fast starts late and ends early. However, the Rebbe started a very special custom, reinstating an old minhag of the Jewish people called Divrei Kibushin. Sort of words of encouragement, admonishment, which he would say on a fast day. So Divrei Kibushin, after Mincha, the Rebbe would speak words of Teshuvah, words of Isairos, very special things. And that year, Asar B'Teves was on a Friday. Shabbos is coming soon. And after Mincha, the Rebbe just started it, I think, that year, actually. If I remember correctly, I think that Asar B'Teves was even the first time the Rebbe reinstituted it. And the Rebbe continued it after. But after Mincha, the Rebbe said he wants to say a Sikha. And it was a very long Sikha, especially for those times. Later on, Sikhas became longer. But like a Sikha during the week, they could become 45 minutes to an hour. But then, if the Rebbe would say a Sikha during the weekday was 5 to 10 to 15 minutes, but the Rebbe spoke on that day for 45 minutes to maybe close to an hour. And the Rebbe spoke very emotionally, with tremendous passion and heart. The Rebbe spoke about this story of Pilagish Begivah, connecting it to the Chitas of that day. So let's go back, just finish the Chitas, the Rashi. So the first one is Binyamin Zev Yitraf. The Binyamin is considered like a wolf who grabs. Wolves a lot of times just grab prey from other people, from other animals, because they would grab, it says the men of Binyamin would have to find a wife, and they would have to choose who to marry, because no one could give their daughters to Binyamin. Next one is Shaul. He would King Shaul. He won around all of his enemies surrounding him, and also he would grab his enemies. Says in the morning he will devour plunder. What does that blessing mean? It's going on Shaul, who would plunder all the enemies of the Jewish people. But Boker is a mourning because he was the beginning of the Jewish monarchy. As we learned in Derech Mesechta, why Shaul had to be the first king. You needed him to introduce the idea of monarchy, bring Malchus to the Jewish people. And in the evening, what's the evening? When it's dark, when things look grim. Yechalek Shalol. They will divide the spoils. Look at the words in the Megillah. Ushlalom, lavais, and their spoils, and their plunder, and their booty will be divided among, says, kill all the Jews and get all their shalom, and all their money will be plundered. And it ended up being that Haman was killed, and all of his possessions, which he was extremely wealthy, were plundered by the Mordechai and Esther. So la'erev, when it's dark, when the sun sets, when it's galus, when exile, when things are bleak, when you got a Haman out there with an Achashverosh out there, we have those same people today, Haman and Achashverosh from Iran, and you could say that Iran does not rule the entire world today, but the same thing, the same ideology rules the entire world, right? Of those who senseless hatred to the Jews on the level of Haman and Achashverosh. It's dark. We will plunder all the spoils of our enemies as well. So it's going on. It says Mordechai the Esther, which came from Binyamin, which they will divide the spoils of the house of Haman. Like it says in the Megillah, behold, I have given the house of Haman to Esther. Some say it's going on the Kohanim in the base of Mikdash, which was in the tribe of Binyamin's portion. So these three blessings. Now, what is a blessing? The Rebbe speaks very emotional. I'll pull up a video for a minute, but I'll give you a brief point of a few of the sichas, a few of the points. If you could, wait a second. Let me do like this. New share sound, share, so you'll be able to hear it better. You hear anything? So let's finish mincha here on a fast day. You can imagine it's a fast day, it's a short, no one's expecting a sicha, and it being a very long sicha, close to Shabbos. I mean, the Rebbe is obviously. Here. Oh, you just heard the words Pledges Givah, literally.
Is nicht mit bei was für Sipur und das hat passiert. Nur verlost sich mit der Kucht und in dem Posek wird dort sehen, der will wissen noch Brote. Ist rasche mäßig. Aber bei Jagd, weil ich das gesehen, der Kollel Givah. Das ist mit Madge in Bilchas Yanke.
Yeah, I just want to like show. I spoke with. So, right, here's a few ideas of the Rebbe explain the story of Pilegesh Begivah over there. When you're giving a bracha, a blessing, I bless you that you should get out of your parking tickets that you get in the future. I don't know. It's like when you give a bracha to someone, a blessing, why mention something negative? Pilegesh Begivah, seemingly a very negative story. Right? What the tribe of Binyamin did. Right? I give you a blessing that even though your house is full of litter, you shouldn't get a ticket. Right? Because you leave litter outside. Like, is that a bracha? Maybe a bracha you should be clean. You shouldn't have to receive a violation. Why is it Yaakov giving a bracha to Binyamin about Pilegesh Begivah? Seemingly it's like sort of a counterintuitive bracha, counterintuitive blessing. And then he goes through every single one of these, like these Rashis in detail, going through every single one, asking many questions about it. And he brings a common denominator of all three things. Story of Mordechai, the story of Pilegesh Begivah, story of Shaul. The common denominator is all of them have the idea of teshuvah in a tremendous way. Tribe of Binyamin, after the Pilegesh Begivah, they all felt bad about what they did. And the fact that we say it out loud as a kapara, as an atonement, meaning that they were able to be atoned. In fact, we're able to translate it and explain it. They're able to be atoned because they did teshuvah on it. If someone never did teshuvah, never felt bad, and there's no atonement that could happen for it. A Baal teshuvah, someone returns and does teshuvah, he's greater than a tzaddik in many ways. Yosef is called a tzaddik Elyon, a greater tzaddik. Binyamin is greater than Yosef in another way, also comes from Rachel, but his idea of Baal teshuvah, a returnee, someone who went on the wrong path and came back in a much stronger way. That's the idea of Binyamin. When someone comes back and does good, they do things with much more passion, much more excitement. Right? Someone who's born into it is not as excited about it as someone who finds it. The idea of grabbing, ze'ev yitraf, the grabbing, it's a bracha, it's a blessing, meaning that it's a good thing. Now, is grabbing a Jewish thing? Grab and rub, it's not necessarily a Jewish thing. Torah says, kikach, if a man takes a woman, it doesn't say he grabs a woman. And the idea of shalal, plunder. Plunder is also grabbing, right? The other person was killed and I'm plundering their possessions. Other person's gone and I'm a war, right? Giving a bracha to Shaul. A war is not that he's going to win the war, but Shaul, who is going to win his wars, will grab his enemy's possessions, will plunder his enemies. That's a bracha that Shaul got. All of these things are about grabbing, and he says this is a breaker. This is how you start Shaul, the first king. Is this a message you want to give to the Jewish people? So yes, this is a message you want to give to the Jewish people. And it's a message that's going to take them all the way through Purim, all the way through the exile of Nebuchadnezzar, terrible exile, all the way through our exile too. When we have enemies who fight us, whether it's Haman, Achashverosh, Amalek, the other nations around, Edom, or it could be enemies from among ourselves, from among the Jewish people, or it could be an enemy within ourselves, our own nefesh habahamis. And one way we could do is just make peace, surrender to the enemy. We could fight the enemy, but what's needed is to fight the enemy with a passion. What's a passion? The passion is to go out all the way out. Are we going to plunder the house of Haman? We're going to plunder our enemies. When it comes to doing teshuvah, there's one thing to ignore ignore evil. That's one way of dealing with dealing with hardness. There's a Yid named Reuven Gunin. We spoke about him before. He's called the Rebbe's tractorist. And he went through, he made personally hundreds, maybe thousands of, probably hundreds. Who am I to judge? Maybe thousands of Bali Tshuva. He himself became a Baal Tshuva from the Rebbe, very interestingly. Rebbe Reuven Gunin. So he grew up he grew up from, he went very, very far out, did some very, very far things, and then he came back with a huge passion, thanks to the Rebbe. He had a very special connection with the Rebbe. We could talk about him a lot another time. There's 3 books about him, stories about him, things he would bring about. He was like a tough love type of person, but that was the way he operated. And he came to the Rebbe when he first, in the years, in the early 60s, I think, when he first came back and came to the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe for a way to teshuvah. The Rebbe said, now is not the time. Over the years, he kept on asking the Rebbe. He was one of the people who was able to walk into the Rebbe, have yichidus whenever he wanted. Even later on, the mems and the nuns, the Rebbe spoke to him many private things, and he asked the Rebbe for a way of teshuvah. The Rebbe said, not yet. And it only happened in the 1990. And I don't think he even asked the Rebbe, and he was in yichidus by the Rebbe, and then the Rebbe says, now we could start to speak about doing teshuvah for the things that you did. The main thing is to just ignore and go on. That's one part of teshuvah. A higher type of teshuvah is ashapcha, turning over the bad to the good, and that's a highest level of teshuvah. When they grab, whether it's grabbing from the other shevet, grabbing a wife. Instead of taking a wife, as the Torah says, you grab a wife, meaning you're making an extra effort, going out of your way to do a mitzvah in a good way. We want to speak about the greatness of all the sons of Yaakov. But what's the greatness of Binyamin? Besides the son, that he himself was a tzaddik, but his descendants had all the advantages and greatnesses of doing teshuvah, like a wolf which grabs, turning over a negative thing, the story of Givah, to something positive. Same thing with Shaul. That Shaul, it says over here, he fought with Moav, and everything he did, Yarshia, caused him to tremble. Meaning Yarshia, the evil people, the people of Moav, they themselves trembled whenever they saw him. And so too it is by Mordechai and Esther. Mordechai and Esther had the same idea, that the beginning of the house of Haman, this was where 10,000 talents of silver were offered to Achashverosh to destroy the Jews. And now these same talents of silver won't go to Mordechai and Esther, being used to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash a few years later. And it wasn't just finders keepers, that Achashverosh gave over the house of Haman. He says, Hine Beis Haman. Hine means I'm doing it with an announcement. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to give you. And this is the advantage of about Shuvah over a tzaddik, and this is why a place of a tzaddik stands, about Shuvah can't stand. The Beis HaMikdash is a place where Jewish people all over would come to do teshuvah. They would return to Hashem, bring Karmei Chatas to Hashem, and they would come closer to Hashem than before. And this idea was had to be done specifically in the area of the tribe of Binyamin. You have many Shvatim. Yehuda, the whole area of Yerushalayim, is generally in his tribe. But Binyamin had a peninsula jutted out, and the Beis HaMikdash and the Holy of Holies, and the Seidas, the foundations of the Mizbeach, were in the tribe of Binyamin. Because Binyamin is also if you see later on the story of the daughter of Bilga, she was a daughter from one of the families of Kohanim who married a Greek, and she called the Mizbeach Lukus, wolf. Why are you devouring the Karbanis, the sacrifices of the Jewish people, and not helping them? The idea of the Mizbeach is to take the Nefesh Abham, is to take your animal soul and to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, to bring it to Hashem, turn over your animal to Hashem. And that is specifically the idea of Binyamin. Binyamin is the ultimate of teshuvah. The story of Pelegish Givah could be translated, could be publicized, because it's not just how we overcame adversity, but we made the adversity itself into something good. The same nature that they had to violate and do everything they did to the Pelegish, to the concubine and Givah, now they use that same koyach, the same power, to find a wife, to do mitzvahs, and to repopulate the Jewish people. And with that, may Hashem give us brachas, that once again we should have days of simcha, days of joy. Like you mentioned yesterday, today is Tezayin and Yudzayin. Earlier the Gemara in Mesechta Megillah said that maybe we could read the Megillah on the 16th and 17th of Adar. We say no, but lo yaver ksiv. But some circles don't say Tachnun, not today and not tomorrow. Especially today, which is a very, very big day, because the Siyum HaRambam, the completion of the Rambam, of the cycle of learning 3 chapters a day. And there are many people I know who didn't say Tachnun on the day of the first Siyum HaRambam. So today is the Siyum HaRambam. Today is also a special day. Tonight's going to be in this building, a Siyum HaRambam at 8:30. Full meal will be served, Amir Hashem. And everyone's invited, and I'll be zeichet to finish Kol Terah Kula. Thank you.